Yo, we're live. Happy Saturday, man. Back with
Happy
Catan
Saturday.
Weekly. How are you
Yeah,
doing, EBOX?
back at it. Hey, good, good DG, good Dev Bev. How
Yes,
are you, buddy?
doing all right, man.
How's
Doing all right. Excited to be
good?
back. Week
Yeah.
two.
hmm
We've got some
Awesome.
a fun topic today, some fun boards to look at, and
It
a
is.
new mini
Yeah, fun
segment as
topic.
well.
Hmm
Should be good.
No, fun topic. I mean, sneak peek on on a special, powerful development card we're going to talk more about, and
Yeah,
how to maximize its potential, and
yeah,
on when you hold the card, and also playing around it too. So it's going to be a fun topic, and one that
exactly.
I think can really separate the strongest players from maybe the players that are maybe more becoming players. And I think
Yep.
just how you play that special card, and it's great. Looking forward to it.
Should be interesting. Get some
Mhm.
insight into the
Yeah, yeah,
into. I
definitely.
mean, I've personally found this to be one of my greatest weaknesses. So actually, this has been just writing some of
Yeah,
the script has been
yeah,
kind of helping
yeah.
me out
This is a game changing card.
for sure.
I mean, you know, for sure. I mean, it's what I would say. Like, I mean, the stats on it. Like, I'm curious to,
Yeah.
like what the numbers are. If you draw one of these, you draw two of these. What's your win
Oh
percentage?
boy.
And
Yeah.
playing
It, it
against it.
it's got
So
to change, especially if you're doing
yeah,
your
it's
making clever plays. But
exactly. hmm
we got some news to get into first.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
Another
yeah.
week,
Without further ado, yeah, let's get into it. Yeah,
another week in the Catan scene.
another week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So moving into the news
yeah.
updates.
hmm
Wow. The
It's
seasons have begun, I believe, over in
yeah. I
KOC.
mean, yeah, it's I mean with KOC, I mean PL PCL, it's starting today. It's going to be great. So I mean it technically started earlier in the week, but the
Hmm.
first scheduled game I believe is today, actually right after our our session or chat
Yes.
today, and it's going to be fun. For me, I've played, I think it's my eighth or ninth PL season.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's
The
it's
veteran.
great. No, looking forward to it. Yeah, bit of a veteran, and yeah, no, it's great. Looking forward to it, and yeah, and we've got a few games I'm excited about, and
Ooh.
we've got Biaki, Azen, Hans, and Jolly Baker. I guess that's tomorrow
Yeah.
at 6 p.m. UTC.
Yes.
But there's a game right after this, I recall. It's
Back to back.
someone I've got my eye on, Kwijibo, who's back in it. He took a couple seasons off, but
Yeah.
he's a former Canadian national champion. Wrote a book as well. I'll flip you the link.
Mm.
Just do a quick search on Amazon. You can give him some hype, and also our other friend Mark Oxer, who's also written a book, and
Yeah.
he's Mark Oxer is playing PL. Kwiatkowski was playing. Had to re-enter back into PCL, but he's playing, I believe, right after this game,
Right.
and should be great. No, it's fun, action packed, and we've
Yeah.
got a few other games as well. Yeah,
Rayman
yeah,
here. Ooh.
Rayman, yeah,
What a
Rayman
lovely.
Hakuna rowing the boat, who made the jump up to PL.
Yep.
It's great in Chapa. That's yeah, at 9 p.m. UTC on Sunday, which is great.
Stacked
And
lobby.
then we got, yeah, that's a stacked one. Yeah, no, I've played Rowan a few times. No, he's a great player, strong player. Raymond Hakuna speak for themselves, and
Yep.
chap I've played in real life with, and he's yeah, played him in the. I mean, both played at the Canadian National Tournament in Toronto back in July,
Mm.
and unfortunately both lost in the semifinals. But
Oh
it
no.
was a great experience with him. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's no, that's a stacked lobby. And then next Sunday we've got the Clash of Titans. We've got four PL past champions. We've got
Wow.
the defending champion Blue Tiger, defending two-time champion, who's won the
Sheesh.
last two seasons. So a little hype there.
Wow.
And you got Real Crate, Mr. 912, who's also a Danish national champion
Yeah.
and a
Qualified.
world finalist, 2008 world finalist.
Yep.
Yeah, and you also have Winters, who's an exceptional player as well, and so you've got a few, you've got some strong players, and you got me. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's somehow won a PL season as well. So it's that we're still sorting out the time there, the logistics, but
Yep.
it'll be Sunday evening, I think 8. But there'll be more information. There'll be more information on it coming out soon on it.
Yes.
So it's be exciting. And no, we got your first PCL
I'm
game. That'll
playing my
be
game.
that'll be great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That'll
Yeah.
be great. So no, looking forward to that. And we got yourself. It's Shin who's making the jump back in.
Yeah, he's returning.
Back into. He took a couple seasons off of competitive Catan, off playing in competitive Catan. I would say like he's taking a step back, and which is great.
Yep.
Ice Queen and Mr. Lassie, who was at that 2018 World Championship against Mr. Real Crate, and which is great. So no, it's some hyped up games there, sure. And
this will be an interesting one because I think between Shin and Mr. Lassie, you have kind of the whole German spectrum of Catan. I think.
Yeah, you've got it's I don't know. It's you got three players in Germany. Ice Queen, I think she's in Netherlands.
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
we're all close.
All Europe game. Yeah. All our.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe the geography means we all think alike. I guess it's to be seen.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
That should be good.
So we got some initial games to start off the season, and more will be scheduled as the weeks go on. Some interesting lineups for sure. Mm-hmm. Moving on from King of Catan, other servers have been quite busy too. Good morning, Calm. Hello. Speaking of which, a Catan Championship had a busy week. The Division 1 final happened, which I commentated with Julio. Nuke is now, as of last week, the new Division 1 champion. He's done it.
Yeah.
Nuke,
Nuke, he's I played against him a couple times in champs. He's a great player, and he won, deserving. I unfortunately wasn't able to catch the game. I was actually hoping to maybe step in and help commentate, but it didn't line up with my schedule and
would
such.
Have been great.
But, it would have been great to jump in on that. But no, it's great to see another new champ for D1. That's great. And there's something to add to the mantle. That's great. Congrats to him.
For sure. They did some predictions during that, and actually Kaldowski correctly guessed 3 out of the 5 questions. Congratulations to them. Henry Raw is, we mentioned him last week. We gave him a bit of a shout out. He was on a hot streak, and he has continued. He is currently leading the table on 9 wins. Second place is on 7. So midway through the season, he has a dominant lead, and 9 wins is no joke. He's actually still got 2 games left to improve that set.
13.
He's 9-13, and he could get the 10 bomb here, which would also qualify him for the CPI events. Interestingly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is it? Yeah, I guess back on that qualification criteria. So is it 10? You need 10 if you get 10 wins.
Top seed, 10 win, or a 2-time finalist. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's great. Yeah,
10 wins is serious business.
That is serious. I mean, that's quite the heater, man. That's great. I mean,
exactly.
It's nice to see those stories and they see that come out. So that's great.
So good luck to him, but also good luck to anyone else who may push through for the rest of the season. It's going to be an interesting one. I personally have had an awful record so far this season. I am mostly defeated. I believe I'm 3 for 15 or 3 for 17.
Yeah, I think I'm 1 for 5. I don't know. I won my first game. I lost 4 in a row, and a couple tough plays there. I think
I'm determined to. It's going to get changed. Next week is Champs Week. I'm gonna commit some time and really try and grind some games out. So
it's good.
Whoever else feels like it.
A little over 2 weeks left.
Yep.
And, you just got to get in
halfway through the season.
Grind through it. Yeah, absolutely.
So divisions 2 and 3 have actually merged. They have been pushed together to increase activity. And
good. No, I think it was overdue. I mean,
for sure.
I think you kind of. There's really a tier of Catan that's super competitive. That definitely it's D1 from when I've played, and I think once upon a time I don't think I completed a full set of games. I was relegated to D2, and the full game isn't quite there. I think maybe with those tier of players and a little more erratic and inconsistent, but I think merging the divisions was appropriate.
Yeah, look, it does increase the competition because a lot of players who are either getting relegated or new players will all be then facing off against each other, and they've also now reduced the number of people advancing to Div 1, so it's more competitive, and you're really hoping to get the best of the best coming through, which is really optimal for everyone involved. Exactly. Makes it more fun to grind, makes it more satisfying, and makes it better for everyone in Div 1 when the players do get promoted. More consistent play. So
exactly. It's
nothing wrong with that.
Kind of like the minors being called to the major leagues, I guess. In some ways.
Exactly.
yeah, you work on your game a bit, and you make D1, and yeah, I mean there's still some great players in D2 them,
for sure.
out there, and just through the relegation process, they move up, and it's yeah, I think it was the right decision to merge the division. So
sure. Puche currently leading Division 2 standings. They are number 1 from everyone who's been put together. The CK League is heating up. There are some very interesting streaks going on right now. Winters is leading convincingly, but Vamos, Cosmos, and Felix Uwu are both performing very well. I believe Felix is actually has more than a 50% record over something like 45 games, which is extremely strong in a game mode that actually does have a very high skill cap. He's clearly competing at the highest level right now. Something like 28 for 45 or something insane like that. Yeah.
That's safe. No, it's I don't know. I haven't fully dove into the CK game. I've played a bit, but it's a different game. There's different steps you take in the game, and I don't know. It's
many more decisions to make and very different decisions.
Yeah. I think it's just been focusing on base, and I think there's a more established competitive scene with it. But it's not, sure. I mean, TK is definitely taking steps forward with it. It is a very in-depth game, and just a lot going on. It's
hey, I've been really hustling the CK. I'm really hoping to see more CK action and to kind of. It would be fun to personally also start competing at some point. So who knows? Either way, from now I'm just keeping up from the sidelines. Speaking of which, there will be a CK final. Surf Rip, Tutanjo, and Nil Droid already secured their spots, and there is the 4th semi-final. Grub Dub Dub, Sangam, Orange Hat, and Calm playing off for that final spot. So look forward to that match. That should be concluded soon, I think.
That should be good.
The 1v1 league is still led by Glue Chugger. Don't try this at home. They are still 9 for 10. An incredible set. And the brand new CK 1v1 league is currently also being led by Winters. He's just absolutely insane. He cannot be stopped. Calm also leading, and G90. I did my best. G90 all. So
yeah, good attempt. CK 1v1 CK. That's I have not played a game of that. Yeah, that's a new concept. I can't add much in terms of that play mode.
It's happening. That's all we need to know. It's happening, and if you want it to happen, you can go and do it yourself.
Expanding the offering. So let's see where it goes. So
exactly.
It's good. Good to see.
So Championship has had an interesting week. Catan Community is actually celebrating their birthday this week. Their 2-year birthday. Happy birthday!
2-year birthday. Happy birthday! Yeah. No.
And they've been hosting this tournament.
Yeah, they've had tournaments I think every day this week, right?
Yeah.
I got in the fun yesterday. I played the very fast base.
Oh yeah.
1 win out of 3.
Nice.
Unfortunately qualified to day finals, but it's very fast, and it's not exactly my preferred game mode, but hey, it's fun to go play, and
for sure
can't negotiate that. You just have enough time to negotiate.
You're talking about giving free cards and doing trades for roll.
You can't make these creative, crazy plays. You just gotta. Yeah, it's really like an auto.
You're telling someone to show you their hand so you can figure out what to do with it. Your turn's already over. You time out. Everyone 7's out. It's a disaster.
Yeah, pretty much. You gotta move pretty quick.
You gotta move quickly.
You can't. Yeah, exactly. But it's great for community. They do a fantastic job putting on tournaments every week, and I mean, they celebrate their 2-year birthday, and they put it's quite the show. They do a great job, and
for sure,
definitely encourage viewers and others to get out there if they haven't played in the community tournament. It's great.
Yeah, they've given me lots to work with. Content-wise, I've just been streaming all of these qualifiers pretty much. NTNT was quite the experience. Yeah. No Talk No Trade is NTNT if you're not aware. Base was, of course, we just had normal base, very fast base. The Lakes map, which is again unique. I really don't know how to. I mean, the Lakes map is a game is a different map with more hexes.
It's its own game on its own.
It's crazy. I mean,
it's too crazy. Like, I mean, I don't know. I love base, and when they've got community has all these like crazy rules and settings. Like sometimes like no talk, no trades. It's just like no. It's like that's like the part of Catan I love is the talking and the trade. And if you can't do that, it's interesting for sure.
Different ways to play.
Deviate the rules a little bit, and deviate from base, and they've got lots of great ideas.
Yeah. So Lakes, there was a funny situation where someone was actually rolling a single dev on every single 8 because they had coordinated ore, wheat, and sheep on the same number. By the end of the game, they'd citied up both of them. They were producing 2 devs with one roll. Just crazy.
That is crazy.
It's just absolutely, it's mind-boggling when you think about it from a base standpoint. It's just
definitely.
Like you hit 3 8s back to back, you have just straight up 6 devs in hand. What does that mean? It just doesn't make sense.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So they've got some crazy deviations to the base game, and
the tournament actually continues. There will be another qualifier tonight at 11 p.m. UTC. And there will be 2 finals tomorrow. So there will be 2 separate. There is prize money for each, and they are more or less competitive based on how many people sign up for the specific the final. So should be interesting. I have secured 2 wins and 27 points, which hopefully will be enough to put me in the running. Would be nice.
We're all rooting for you.
Thanks, man.
We're all rooting for you. So
should be fun.
You can get in there and win it.
Yeah, so now there's no funny business. This is just serious base mode.
That's my bread and butter.
Yeah. There are 2 more qualifiers. Exactly, Ducky. Yeah. There's one tonight and one... Are there 2 more? I'm not sure. But there are certainly 2 finals tomorrow, 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. UTC. Last week, Kelly C did win his 2nd cash tournament. Congratulations to him. Got some money, a little bit of cash from the tournament. Kelly does like to store and report his Catan winnings. So you can add that to the list or a tax write-off. Congratulations.
Good.
Yep. There is another educational piece of content happening after this.
Mm-hmm.
Anora is actually dropping in with another Catan class. Dandy is out of town. He is, I believe he's going to a wedding, and Anora is taking over. He's taking the driver's seat and giving a class right after this, so in about 40 minutes in Catan Community.
Yeah.
Should be interesting. And apart from that, to close off this big week for Catan Community, they will be doing a kind of a Q&A and Ask Me Anything, AMA, during the 2nd qualifier. That's tomorrow. That's today, 10 p.m. UTC, before the tournament that I will be playing in as well. I will be playing that qualifier, so I'm sure I'll get involved a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of it's an expansive team. There's a lot of people there, and there's a lot of different characters. So I'm sure there'll be some interesting discoveries during that question and answer, that little quiz. There's also going to be an actual quiz, a trivia quiz, during the 2nd final check-in tomorrow at 5 p.m. UTC. So they are announcing some prizes for the winner, I think, in the Discord.
Ooh. Yeah. Good. We all like prizes, right?
We all like quizzes with prizes, yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Exactly. So a fun all-around week for Catan Community. And a fun for everyone involved. I would highly recommend getting involved. There are still 2 more qualifiers. In fact, there are 2 today. So you can still qualify. Good luck. And let me actually get these links down in chat. Catan Championship and Catan Community. There you go. Yep. Boom. We do have an update on the Catan Players Invitational side, CPI.
Right. Yeah, we like updates. Good.
There is actually a typo on this. On the 29th to 30th of October, this month, we have the first ever base random tournament. Exactly. 2 weekends. Not the next one, but the one after that. We are hosting the first ever base random tournament. It's going to be a weekend tournament. The announcement will go out with all the information, the rules, the format, the application, and whatever qualifying criteria is relevant. That's all going to be in that big post, going out in all the Discords. And registration is open to anyone who has already participated in a CPI event, as well as any player who does meet the qualification criteria. And based on the sign-ups, we may be also looking to fill more spots. So, yeah, exciting. We're looking forward to that.
That's exciting. That's good. Yeah, no, it's good. I'm hoping I can make it out for that one, and we can sometimes be challenging to commit a decent amount of time on the weekend for. But it's great. No, the CPI event was awesome, and look to get into another one, and looking forward to a future season. That was a blast. It was blast, playing under my Tony Pizza burner.
The alias.
The alias, yeah. Good.
No, we had a lot of fun as well on the team, kind of hosting and being involved. There was so much energy around it, and the games were just fantastic. So,
great.
Semis and finals, extremely satisfying to play, watch. I imagine maybe not as satisfying for you the way your semi went at the end.
No, it was. Hey, you know what? If you have winning rolls on your turn in any game, I think you take it. No, it was a little tough game in some ways, but hey, I had a couple chances off.
Came down to the card.
Yeah, it came down to one card, in one block in one instance. It was just one extra 7 or 8 blocked my strongest spot.
Micromanage your games, people.
You got to micromanage. One card makes a difference, and I think that might segue well into our next topic on. Next topic into talking about this special card.
So IRL, we actually don't have much exciting going on that we are aware of. Of course, we do have Malta coming up. The World Championship is coming up in about a month. Yeah,
big,
a lot of players around the Catan Discord online community will be taking part, and we're going to give you more details on that closer to the time.
Yep. No, that should be. Hey, it's. I mean, arguably the biggest event in Catan.
Yep. It's been a while coming.
That's how the game started. The game started with in real life, obviously, and so be a great tournament. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it as a Canadian national champ. But that's hey, that's what it is. But you can always come back next year, and
for sure.
We'll see. So. Yeah.
And this one's been Corona delayed. So actually, I think there are even more players going.
That's right. Yeah, right. And that was that came up in our going through the circuit in 22 because it with COVID kind of shut things down for more or less for 2 years. So Canada's sending 2. I'm not clear on who's what each country is doing. If they are sending 2, I believe the States are sending 2 as well. But I mean, I think there should be a higher, more people, more participants. I think just on
should be very competitive and
COVID kind of. Going through wrench and everything.
With players having a lot of players having shifted online as well to get more practice, and maybe some players on the Discord side.
I mean, the games become much more dynamic, I think, in that sense, because with the online game and I've spoken before about the difference between in real life and online. And online, you can really get the scoreboard of okay, what's going on, what's the situation. You can talk more clearly, tangibly. Okay, player X has these cards, it has X cards, because it's just visual. Everyone can see that person has 6 cards.
Yeah.
But in real life, you can stack the cards, so you can't. It's just a lot more going on. It's not.
Yeah.
You've got to process. It's hard. It's like I don't know. It's like kind of walking through 8 inches of mud or something, and trying to negotiate, and you don't have all the information efficiently available. It's just
for sure.
It's a different game, and. Even in real life, I won this game as one of my games in the Canadian Nationals, but I missed the interesting situation. You wouldn't catch this. This wouldn't happen in online Catan, but the computer automatically gives you the cards. But on my turn, someone didn't pick up a wheat, and I called a wheat monopoly. I ultimately won the game the turn after. But if that person picked up that wheat, I was one card off from winning the game on that monopoly.
Oh wow, interesting.
Yeah. It's a unique situation, but I never thought of that until now. I will think of that going forward. Make sure you pick up your cards, because sometimes players may not have incentive to pick up a card. It's on 7 cards.
Right.
And they've got 3.
Why do I take 2 wheat if I? Yeah.
Why do I? Yeah, exactly.
If I can just take 1 and I don't go over.
So I had a couple, the Catan people running the tournament were watching the game. I missed a 3 rolled, and the person just settled on the wheat. And they didn't take a wheat, and it was a massive monopoly. It got I think 14 wheats. It was a big monopoly.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was that could have won me a game. So that's going to segue really well into our next topic on the most powerful card in Catan, most powerful development card. And
man,
there's a lot going on, a lot to unpack. So it's I think with that, I'd say we'd probably just jump right in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess. We also got the word of the week.
We do have the word of the week. So we've decided to bring a new segment in conjunction with, I believe, the wishes of many people in the Catan community. We're going to start putting together a dictionary, compiling some of this information, some of the terminologies that we use in the community or in gameplay, or both.
Yeah.
So to plow, this has become so commonplace that people use it online. All over the place. I mean, it's just standard practice to talk about this and to use this verb or a noun. Actually, you can plow someone or you could say, hey man, nice plow. Different options.
No,
yeah, so the act of cutting off an opponent's open road with a road or settlement that impedes the opponent's expansion potential. You could be preventing them from dropping more roads, settling. You could cut their road connection potentially. All of that becomes a plow, and generally it is to the detriment of your opponent when you plow someone.
It's a buzzkill. It's a morale. It kills morale, man. Just getting plowed. It's just like how am I gonna what's your game now?
The road builder and 2 roads in hand.
Many
you can go
cases,
anywhere.
like the most common plow, I guess, is probably on placements. Someone's gonna plow you, or they negotiate a plow, or they get the other card. They made a deal with another player to sweeten them up later with get maybe the future or something.
In fact, an interesting example was the Division 1 final where Nuke made a deal to not be plowed by take your pants off in the settlement phase, and then later plowed take your pants off open settlements on the board. It was a game-winning play for him.
Non-binding. Right?
Non-binding. That's another great phrase for the dictionary, but not for today.
Yeah, that maybe that's next week's word of the week. That's definitely something. Yeah.
So
hey, that's it's a common word. What can I say?
Yeah, it's all over the place. This is about as simple as it gets. I think a lot of people are familiar with this, but every now and then there's someone who says, "What do you mean I plowed him? What does that mean?" This is what it means, and this will be added to the dictionary that will be posted and updated in my Discord.
It'd be good to get a nice book together, or
exactly.
like a good list of all these popular terms. So
exactly. People know that people can come to the community and have an idea of what the hell's everyone talking about.
Another term I coined, community service. I take that probably gets added to the dictionary soon.
Sure, so, exactly. There's quite a few good terms that are very they apply well. Yeah. But Today we are discussing the monopoly in Catan.
Yeah, this is it. This is a big one. I mean,
this is a big one.
It's what can you say about it? It's a game-changing card, and I think it can really distinguish. We talked about the year of planning. That it's a very gadget type card, and it can help you complete it, make a turn more actionable, or increase potential with more production and clearing your hand potentially. But the Monopoly card is just an absolute game changer.
Yep.
And if you get it early in the game, you can really survey the lay of the land and say, okay, when am I going to execute this? When am I going to drop this bomb on the board and just take out the card?
So perspective and patience are extremely relevant when it comes to the mono, and it's an interesting one because you're often likely to see anyone can see that something is rolled and take it. And that is kind of the base form of the mono, that almost at any skill level, you can see what's rolled. You get that information, especially online. Colonist even gives you a little question mark kind of indicator. How much can I get here, like roughly? You don't even need to track, really. But there is a lot more depth to the mono. And I think some of the points that we've come up with...
Like the best players that can track cards and they know what's out there, they can figure out and do the math and understand how actionable the turn will be.
Exactly.
I think that distinguishes like the good players from maybe the best ones in terms of the card counting is a big thing. You can say, well, there's about 7 or 8 cards, or if there's 9, or at least 9, it becomes a much more actionable play. And if you execute the mono, then exactly.
So a little quote here which I thought was quite relevant. Of all the development cards, the mono rewards preparation the most. This isn't to say that you can't play a good mono if you haven't prepared, but that there is the highest potential to increase the value by working and playing around it in advance.
Like trying to get the other stuff out of the way of your game. So you can talk about obtaining a port. If the first development card you pull is a mono, like you want to kind of have your infrastructure set up so you can take in the mono, and maybe you want to have another expansion or two. So like maybe 8's a powerful roll where other players might be triple shared ore, and you're on, if you can get to like the wheat on that 8 rolls twice before your turn, like you call a mono on ore, you're stacked.
You're stacked, and you've absolutely melted your opponent's hands. They are
they aren't actionable.
Exactly,
that's the key consideration too, is buying an orbit. And I think you can really take a turn away from each of your opponent and leave them unactionable after the mono. that's a key. It's a characteristic of a well played mono.
Right. So getting into the pros and the cons, what does the mono have going for it? Of course, what most players recognize, it's just extremely powerful. You can devastate a table at any point.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, really, even at an early stage in the game. If, for example, it's a low brick board and some of those rare brick rolls have come through back to back, you could even consider an early game mono where you're taking all of the brick off the board, totally nullifying early expansions. You're changing your own game. Yeah, I mean, there's so many situations where you can just create these massive swings on the board, which shifts the balance of you versus your opponents by potentially multiple orbits. You know, you can really set them back and set yourself forward.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe when I play it, I mean, there's pros and cons for sure. It's something I would say, but I think there's no one right way to play a mono, and it can be executed in many different ways in each phase of the game: the early game, the mid game, the end game.
Now imagine
getting it early gives you a lot more flexibility when you're going to unleash it, and surveilling how actionable your opponents can be, and converting and assessing how actual that will allow you to be.
We take the mono for granted, but imagine if instead of whatever 2 monos you had 1 of each resource monopoly. There is incredible value to the monopoly being able to take all of any resource, any of the 5 at any time, as long as you have it. It gives you so much flexibility and allows you to prepare in multiple ways. There are so many considerations that could go into a fantastic mono, and it can be a win condition in any of the directions. You can go for quadruple devs, you can go for double city, you can take rolled, you can just take bulk cards off the table and empty your opponent's hands. So many effective ways to play a monopoly, and so much flexibility.
Definitely agree with that. It's the flexibility, and I think it comes down to planning. And I think the earlier you pull it, the more you can plan for it, and the more you can start to figure out how to get the other stuff, other elements of your game, the infrastructure of your game set up to be able to play a more effective mono. In some cases, maybe you want to wait a bit, wait for your opponents to build a few cities in certain areas, depending on the configuration of the board. If if there's 8 ore and maybe the wheat's a little rare, maybe you can call you've got that rare wheat. They roll 1 or 2 8s, maybe they eventually get the cities, and just because it just stacks your hand with ore.
Sure.
There's different ways to play it, and I think that's what makes it such a powerful card. And
absolutely,
it highlights and demonstrates the skill of the top players in terms of how they play it, and how they get the other elements of their game out of the way and play around, knowing that they've got that in their pocket.
But we're still pretty much on the fundamentals. A lot of people know how the monopoly works. This is all cool, but what else do you have for us? I hear the people say, well, we've in fact prepared and kind of taken some more considerations, because the mono is not only a weapon that can be wielded against you. You can in fact counter the mono as a player who does not have it, and you can severely weaken the value of the dev in someone's hand, which is, you have the feeling that if you've pulled a mono, you're extremely powerful and you have this massive potential to increase to change your game and to ruin other people's games. But it can be worked against, and in that situation, your dev maybe has less value than even a knight.
That's right.
Very
it can be. It can be a very they can. The table can really work against it, and I think if you hold the card, I guess later as the game progresses and maybe the development card deck gets pulled entirely, and you can start to count by process of elimination. You can figure out what the cards are, and it's if by process elimination the VPs are here and there, and there's 1 extra development card, and there's only 1 mono play, then this player likely has the mono, so we've got to start burning cards.
So
right?
even that is maybe one of the more straightforward ways of acknowledging or recognizing a monopoly, but we have some more in-depth points later about how you could potentially notice a mono, because there are some hints that give it away. But on the cons here further, greed can be your downfall, I've written. I think the biggest risk with a mono is its own power, is that you want to get you want to get the most out of it, the most value. But waiting for more means that people might just be spending their cards, they might be increasing their production, buying more devs. getting ahead of you while you're holding the mono and not progressing at all.
It's a balancing act, right? I mean, you're trying to get your game sort of taken to the next level, but at the same time, it's you want to be mindful of pacing, but I mean, you are losing incremental production on it, and but like I think at what point is it best to execute it, and it's a fascinating card because I've seen different players really wait and be patient on it, and they just unleash the mono and they can get 5 points and win the game with it.
For sure.
It's really how you set up the other elements of your game before playing it, and knowing that you are playing with fire, and the longer you hold it, the higher risk you have that you may not be able to play it, or the opportunity is not there.
And finally, what can really, interestingly, what can also work against you is just luck. If you're hitting rolls that are not producing a lot, are not producing what you want to, or even can efficiently mono, or just lots of sevens, the production is not where you need it to be. And in fact, sevens can be the biggest mono killer. It's a massive Achilles heel. If you've got 15 ore on the table, everyone sevens out. What do you reckon they're dropping if they've all got 8 ore in hand? Probably some of the ore. So whatever is excess is going to get going down the drain. If people are getting robbed on top of that, potential to become actionable via the steal means that you've got even fewer cards on the table. I mean, it's the worst case scenario when you're holding a mono is you're hitting back-to-back sevens and no one's producing anything, and in fact, due to the process of stealing, fewer and fewer cards, it can really ruin your mono chances.
It can, it's just it's just an interesting card overall, and I think what would I say to that? I mean, it's like if I know there's monos out there, it impacts certain decisions I make.
Sure.
Certain cards I port, it impacts how I trade. If I have the mono, I may, if I roll a 7, I may rob another player because I know that other player doesn't have. Let's say I can see a wood mono coming because a lot of players rolled wood, but one player has 1 wood out of 6. I'm gonna rob that other player, and then play the wood mono because I'm gonna get.
Right.
I don't want to steal a wood that I'm likely gonna mono anyways, right?
Sure.
There's just so many ways to play with it, and set up your game, and I don't know. It's a truly fascinating card, I guess. With that being said,
So getting into that quote that was at the beginning, of all the devs, the Monopoly rewards preparation the most. Kind of the fleshed out point on that is securing the ports that allow for a fantastic mono on any board, preparing your hand at the same, like you said, porting in a certain way to receive what you're planning to steal. If you're trying to mono ore and you're porting for wheat and ore on your previous turn instead of wheat, then maybe you're slightly you're reducing your chances to get the optimal mono there because you're going to take all of the ore anyway. You might want as much wheat as you can get to go with that. And this is an interesting point, I thought. The ability of your opponents to counter the Monopoly is reduced as your flexibility increases. You get more and more effective monos based on the ports that you have, based on the number of win conditions that you could potentially access, and then it's more difficult for them to play around that because maybe instead of just burning the ore on the board, you can also win by monoing the brick or the sheep, and you either taking road or you have sheep port or you take the ore to city. How do they counter that? It gets more and more difficult.
It does, and I think when you get to the later stages of the game, all the cards are out, and they know one player has a mono. You can only burn so many cards, and if there's certain rules, like power rules on the table, are going to put a lot of one card on the table. It becomes challenging to burn those cards, let's say. So it's quite the fascinating card, and I think maybe when I play, offense versus defense, I think it's just offensive, defensive. What's my objective with it? And it can change on any given orbit. If I think there's a very actionable turns coming from my opponents, and because there's a lot of cards, maybe a lot of city type cards, and I need to call a mono on those cards and take it off the table and hopefully buy a turn. But if there's if those rolls are like higher probable rolls because 6s and 8s have rolled versus maybe a couple 3s have rolled that have become very actionable, that may impact how I play. Because if I know the 6s and 8s are they're normally going to roll, I may be less inclined. I may need to accept that those that situation
that might
come
come
up
back,
like
right?
following orbit. But if this is like a more unique situation, I may need to call a mono, take that strong actionable potential away from my opponents for that
Take a rare
orbit.
roll, a rare and hopefully important roll off the board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it was like, I don't know, I'm trying to get 11, someone's coordinated on it. I don't know. So like, there's situations where it exists, where situations where, you know, maybe 6 and 8 is rolled, opponents might be stacked with, you know, maybe city devs or something, and you know, it like, how do you play it on a defensive scale, but also like, what do you get out of it on the offensive side? And I think it's, you know, something we'll talk a little bit. I mean, even talk about now in terms of like maybe what the fair value, establishing the mono. Establishing the value of the mono, to me, that's important consideration. And,
for sure.
You know, it changes throughout the game. It's not I mean, I always keep in the back of my mind that city dev is probably fair value, and hopefully not an actual term for anyone other than maybe a dev, like something where they definitely can't city after a mono is probably maybe fair value, but it changes. That changes as the game progresses. But I mean, it's something, you know, I do try and keep in the back of my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, another consideration you may want to keep in mind is efficiency versus production. So it's, you know, you can mono, like if you take 12 sheep off the table, and that's, you know, you got a 3/1 pour, that could be like 4 free cards, for example. Or do you mono like 6 ore, and maybe you've got the wheat already? If you're looking at city, do you mono 9 sheep, and you can 4/3/1? That gives you 4 like, sorry, 12 sheep gives you, if with a 3/1 port will give you 4 ore. You can mono 6 ore. And I could maybe with 4 wheat, that could give you 2 cities. But maybe the wheat is really good for one player because they've got a wheat. They've got a sheep. Maybe the sheep is really good for one player because they've got a sheep port.
Right. So not just what it gives you and what it takes away.
What it does for your opponent, what the values to your opponent. So I think, in, you know, translating what the what it is for you, efficiency versus production, and that's
agreed.
You know, like we keep in the back of your mind, and pacing. And we talked earlier about the pacing, but I think what you want to keep in mind is, you know, the longer you hold it, you are losing significant incremental production on it. So I think if you can get it played earlier, you're going to gain future cards. You will get robbed more probably, but at the same time, you know, you've hopefully taken a turn away from your opponents with the, you know, early mid game mono, and you set your game up quite well. So pacing can be a consideration, but I think number diversity is a big element of that. If you have, if the key to your game is coordinated 8s, maybe playing the mono super early is not a great idea if you can't develop the infrastructure to protect yourself appropriately.
Right.
So it's, you know, a couple of considerations I look at when I play the Monopoly.
For sure.
You know, take the next step, and let's see, and talk about planning it. And I think that's,
oh man, yeah,
when you get it, like, you just, there's so many, like, it's just like boom, like what do you do? Like,
your decisions can be rewarded, and sometimes it's a minor consideration, but and it's one of those situations. For example, you got a 5/8/10 at the top of the board, and you have 2 open road settles, and they're both different ports, and you go, okay, so there's the one general port, and there's the one brick port, and this is a massive brick board. Loads of people have doubled brick rolls. Whatever, it's coordinated with my wood, so on, and I can get the brick port here potentially. But and whatever, the ports otherwise doubling the spot is kind of the same for me. Taking that into account and planning for that, especially if you do have any intention to buy devs, can be game changing, because all of a sudden you are receiving that brick mono way more effectively, and it also is significantly better for you than if you just gone for the general 3/1 port. Like, the chances are there aren't that many monos that you're going to be looking for that aren't either just directly cities.
That's true, but you can also you get like, there's so many ways to play Monopoly, but you also need to cloak it and camouflage it. And I, like, last PL final, I put this road. I wasn't on wood, but I put a road to a wood. I did have a mono, and it just set the table off. Because if I put the road somewhere else, which maybe been a little more optimal, because I had my spidey senses going that someone had a road builder, the Blue Tiger is gonna double road to a 10/8, and I could have put a road towards a 10 sheep port, not great, and the road was to an 8 ore, on an 8 ore, but a wood port,
right,
and it tripled my ore potentially if I get city, etc. So I put the road there, and it was just like, oh my god, he's got a mono.
Interesting.
It was a decent wood board, but it was just like. But it can work against you. Just have to be really careful how you kind of lay that road out. It's like, it can set off fire alarms in some ways. It's like, start burning cards, and depending on what stage of the game it is. So
Right.
it's a really interesting situation.
So,
but, I mean,
it is
it's a good
brought up
point you
here.
bring up, though. You do need to look ahead to like what ports you can get and what potential production there is.
Yeah, so you've already given some examples about what roles you could be looking for. I think here, the point coordination, production ports, all of those are things you should be looking for when you're considering a future mono. Obviously, settling on the ports, we've kind of already mentioned, so you can receive it most effectively. And this also influences your in-game decisions. How are you going to block if you are looking to mono a certain resource? Are you going to block the ore if you want to hit the ore? Are you going to steal from someone who has the ore in hand as opposed to someone who doesn't, which could potentially give you something that you might be looking for that isn't the ore, and then you take all the ore anyway? Robbing wrong in that position could lead you to have a weaker monopoly for no reason, essentially. And finally, the way you trade, if you're allowing your opponents to become actionable or to get rid of the cards that you're looking for, essentially, then you're also weakening your own mono on your own. So you
really need to keep those cards stuck in your opponent's hand.
For sure.
Like it's when they roll a good number and like not giving them anything to spend those cards, and like that's. And maybe that's how you table talk around it. It's like to try and step on trades that could happen and explain why it may not be a good idea to
but also refusing trades that seem really good for you could be suspect. They say, "Why don't you want this?" I'm not looking for it right now. You got to play it off.
You just gotta it's an interesting card to kind of cloak and camouflage and not to hide, conceal. Let's say that, because if you tip it off, it's just going to start to. It can create a negative reaction. It could maybe it could influence rob decisions, could influence burning cards in some ways, and just porting inefficiently by your opponents because they rule their ore may not be great, but they rolled it, and it's like, well, I know he may have a mono be super actual. It's just 3-1 and buy a development card or something. So it's it's just that's something. It has a big influence on in-game decisions in terms of how you trade and how you do how you go about your game with it, and your opponents, if they're strong opponents, they'll catch on as well, and they might be able to fish it out of you and play around it.
And that weakens the power of the information regarding the mono is extremely important, and it is tied very closely to the value of that card. And finally, the role order. Considering that the player just before you is most likely to have done something with their cards, and they haven't received multiple rolls back to back without being able to even spend them or trade them. It means that generally the player right before you is going to be your worst mono on the board. So that is something to consider when you're placing. And
you got to look the player right after you. That's the player that they're going to have 3 rolls where they won't be able to spend cards on their own. They'll only be able to trade them.
Yeah.
So that's when you look at what are the power rules and who's going to have those power rules, and like when do they have to happen for it to be a more effective mono? I mean, you probably don't want to rely on the person before you to have those power rules.
Right.
Like if it's an 8's a great rule and it's a player before you that generates a lot on an 8, for example, maybe they're tripled or quadrupled on an 8 ore. I don't know why it's always 8 ore, but maybe it is. But they're probably going to spend it. They're probably going to find a way to spend it, so it can impact it impacts certain decisions. Maybe you don't want to consider that as an option. Maybe you just want to keep it blocked if you're playing Knights and you're in the depth game, and you want to keep it blocked because you're just not going to give that opponent a chance to be actionable. You can't do much about it unless the 8 rules on your turn.
Oh man, I can't be late for this KLC game.
But we've had too much fun talking about this.
We have had too much fun talking, but I think the final big kind of general point is, what are the counterplays of the monopoly? In what situations is the strength of the monopoly reduced? And of course, we've already discussed burning cards. For example, the table is aware that there is a threat on the table. They could lose everything they have and give you potentially winning rolls. They decide to work together to trade down the cards in their hand, burning them and reducing the strength of the monopoly. This puts you in a situation where the only counterplay to that is not playing the monopoly to leverage them to keep burning cards, since they will eventually have to try to progress.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one where you kind of
Yeah.
you wield it over them, but you also
It
can't fall too
creates
behind.
a sub game, this like, derivative game where it's almost like your opponents are like encouraging you to burn and
Yeah,
then trade them like a certain card maybe, or
right.
you can use that as like leverage in some ways if you're a player in that game where player A has Monopoly, your player B, player
Yeah,
C has like a risky hand in that sense. It could be mono. You can work with
yeah.
them and they can burn port certain cards, give you cards back that you can burn. You can be actionable, and the way you can play around it's really interesting. That has really evolved. Certainly, before I got into more competitive. Certainly before I got into competitive Catan, it definitely wasn't like that. But it's really fascinating what you can do with the mono and how you can play around it.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
and one of these situations where the table can become aware is when you attempt a dirty mono, which can
Yeah.
potentially benefit you. And this was in the table of contents. It's very interesting the situation around a dirty mono,
Mm-hmm.
but even offering a trade that seems too good to be true when there's a lot of a certain resource on the board, can allow you to be sussed out and to give information to the table. And this happened just recently. Division 1 champion Ash Puppy tried it, offering 2 wood for an ore, I believe, in the Division 1 final, where there was one question mark on the wood. There was about 15 ore on the table, and they immediately said, oh, wait, why we don't... Why everyone's got wood? We don't need more wood. And then they immediately realized he did have the monopoly, and they were aware of it until he played it.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Mm-hmm.
interesting situation where by trying to gain marginal benefit, he actually massively reduced the surprise
Yeah, he
factor.
can tip off. You've
Yeah,
really got to conceal it, and I think that might be one of the most important takeaways is how you keep it concealed.
there was not a single wow
Players
on the
will ask
table
you
when he played it. They knew.
no, they knew. Yeah,
Yeah,
that it's usually not as strong Monopoly if it doesn't have that wow factor, doesn't
yeah.
have that oh man, I just lost like X
It's like that's
cards, a
so
lot of
huge
cards.
for him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
one of
It can
those
be a massive hit, massive massive morale breaker.
for
Let's say,
sure.
yeah.
And
So yeah.
other points here where situations where it could be weaker, a low ore board, then you're kind of having to
Hmm.
rely again on this preparation. Having a 2-1 port is a game changer in that situation. We talked about the rolls being either bad in quotation marks, but also just the 7, which objectively will always reduce the strength of your
Yep.
mono. Stealing, trading, spending without too much forethought, we already mentioned, and lack of confidence, meaning that you don't really know when
Yeah.
to play it, which could lend to you holding it longer and potentially getting a
Yeah.
worse return than you could have got.
Yeah, you're trying. It's a balancing act. Like you're trying to. At one point, is it become too late to play the mono, and
Yeah,
you're losing earlier production? But I mean, how blockable again? That's something. There's no linear way to play it, but it's very board dependent. And,
for sure.
situation. The more numbers you have, the more good I feel about playing it earlier. I would say.
Yeah,
You just
yeah,
have more rules. You're more actionable. You're harder to block, and I think that's what I like to try and avoid is what number can shut what if a number is blocked or if it's broken up, if I have a coordinated rule, if it gets blocked, is my game diminished? And
mm,
I think that's something I look at when I play a Monopoly. Like if I need one number to win, I don't want to Monopoly it too early. If I want to get
right,
I
right,
want to get to other numbers potentially or do other things. So
for sure.
yeah.
And
So,
okay, so then finally, just in conclusion, yes, the mono is absolutely a game changer, but
yeah.
there are ways to become aware of it. There are ways to counter it. There are ways to reduce the strength of it, and even
Yep.
situations that cannot be controlled can also make the mono weaker. So it does rely
Yep.
on a few factors. Some
Mm-hmm.
of which you yourself, as the player holding it, can be responsible for. Trying to keep that information secret, not being too greedy.
Yeah.
When a dirty mono attempt, which could lead to rejected trade, no mono, and the table finding out about the mono, is pretty much the worst case scenario. You've benefited, you've only lost,
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
You've only lost value. So play with care, especially at the top level. There's a lot of ways that people can start to suspect it, and in that situation, especially in the end game, you may actually lose a win condition.
Yeah, it can it's just an overall fascinating card. I mean, I think
Yeah,
in conclusion is what I would say, and it's knowledge is power, and I think it's
right.
just continue to play, and just how you prepare yourself for a future game, and it's something to keep in mind planning is key, and just
For sure.
learn from how long how many orbits did you hold Monopoly? Was there a better opportunity to play it? I think that's something you can look back at your game and say, okay, could I have played it here? Would it have been more effective? Would it have avoided a potential city opportunity for my opponent or potential very actionable play? So I think planning is key in looking how to set up the rest of your game before you play it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, perfect. Actually, this PCL game starting 10 minutes late. That is ideal. So we would have not made
a couple
it.
more minutes. Yeah.
So
we got a few more minutes to talk through some boards.
So mono setup. We have a couple of questions actually in chat. We can go through these quickly. So thoughts on using the mono early, for example, only to get a city.
I think for me, it's city. It's number diversity and where that city is. So number diversity, city quality are the two.
And how and then it comes into how significant is the city for you. If it just puts you up in pacing, exactly. if everyone's on 2 points and you get a massive early city, you're going to get robbed way into the mid game.
A lot. But if you're on an 8 or 5 wheat type of thing, and that's where the city is, you can kind of justify it. If you've got 6 numbers, I think city quality and number diversity,
especially breaking other players' early cities or reducing the chance that they can roll the city.
Yeah, and if they don't have any development cards down, like you probably got a 50% chance you aren't going to be robbed on the next turn if there's no development cards there. It's about a 50% chance you're going to roll encounter a 7 on a turn. So it's something to think about, and that's something that I focus on number diversity and city quality in that situation.
Sure,
so that's how I'm not sure that if you'd agree with that or maybe a different.
It's always very circumstantial, man. I mean,
it is. It's very circumstantial.
Like I gave that brick situation. So sometimes
it may not always be pretty. Like
you don't. Exactly. You don't need to win.
Card mono.
You don't need to win with the mono.
Something that's actionable. And
right.
It kind of parlays our conversation on the yacht, but you need actionable is key.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a very important thing. It may not be like a super strong play, but it in terms of the resources that you yield from the monopoly. But just,
I guess a good blanket statement would be just assess the value, right?
Yep.
Try and really think about the significance for you, for your opponents, and what are the repercussions of playing the monopoly in this position, right?
Yeah.
I think generally. Because some people associate the monopoly with winning or the end game or getting massive cities, the more relevant definition and application is creating massive swings on the board where you are pushed further ahead and your opponents are taken further back. So it's more a matter of how big a swing can you make on the board rather than what can you do, because that is very relevant to the board. It's much more situational.
Yep, agreed.
Thoughts on defensive monos without a port where you have 12 cards and are stuck?
I don't love that situation, but I mean, you really got to figure out how many orbits can your opponent win.
Yeah,
do something like that, and maybe it's something you got to bring to the table and get the other 2 players to help you make it more actual for yourself. Say, okay, I'm going to do some community service and take him for the team, take a bullet for the team, and we got to break up if he's got a weak port 12, he's got a lot of sheep.
I mean, defensive monos basically have to be played in a position where you otherwise would lose. So that often a defensive mono is forced, right? So in that situation, you don't even really have a choice. If it's so critical that you are confident that you will otherwise lose, then you must do it. Because you don't have another choice.
But I think the key is getting the table to compensate you for doing it, because you're really doing everyone a favor. And if you're not in second place, and first place could win, let's say the person maybe they're on 8 or 9 points, and you got to break it up. You need to get the other players to potentially help you, service you something, and hopefully make it a win-win-win for the other 3 players, and that's the ideal situation there. So that way you're not totally taking a bullet for the team. Yeah,
exactly. All right, so we do have about 10 minutes to get through this final segment. We have some boards. So here's the first one. I did place, but it was only, I think I ran out on the time before I took a screenshot. It was quite interesting to me. So looking at this board, there's quite a lot of different stuff that's offered. I would like to add that there is certainly a world where fourth can get 8-4-3, 8-4-3, coordinated 8s, 4s, and 3s. Quite chunky rolls on this board with potential wheat port. Very, very interesting. Yeah. What would you be looking at here as first? I couldn't quite decide between 5, 8, 10. 6, 9, 4 is really interesting. Such a low wood board.
Yeah, it's I probably would have gone. I guess with the Ore only being a 6 and a 3.
Right, 6 and 5 also great.
Like, I mean, if you go 8, 5, 10, like how quick do you get to the wheat port? And your placement, like 10, 9, 2 could sort of get you there maybe, but it's not that strong. Otherwise, like no one's going to give you a trade to help you settle there.
For sure.
Where I think 8, 4, 3 probably is going to have stronger. That's kind of, I see 8, 4, 3 and 8, 5, 10 being picked here. If you pick 8, 5, 10 first, like what else you need to get to the wheat port? And I think it gets you robbed a lot. I'd say it's a trap. I kind of feel that.
Quite an interesting situation as well with this.
Like,
8, 5,
I almost
10
wonder
sheep.
if you go, 8, 5, 10 sheep is
lots of production, but someone's got to get in on that, right?
I wonder if you go 8, 4, 5 and just let someone place 8, 3 to 8, 10, and you kind of it's less optimal. I think 8, 4, 3 or 8, 5, 10 with the wheat port is really strong.
Might create some space on yourself.
But if you make it, yeah, exactly. If you make it, the problem is there isn't good. Like, you get the good brick, but you don't really get good wood on like another good spot probably. No. Like, you don't get. I don't think you get on the 6, 11, 3. I just don't know how you convert that.
Yeah.
That's the incentive when you incentivize the opponent to place on 8, 3, you do create the space, but I just don't think you've got the road material to capitalize on it.
No, you would need the 10, 9, 2 or 6, 3, 11.
I think 6, 5, 9. No, I think it's the strongest production. It's a rare ore. The brick, you've got both shares of good brick.
Yeah,
you can trade it to the 9, 4, 6 player probably if they're not on good brick.
Roll to 9, 10 says real crate, which is a good point. Especially,
I don't know if it'd go to the wood port there, because even well, I don't know if 9, 12.
This is a great 9, 12
on here. Yeah, but I mean,
a classic.
I think 6, 11, 3 gets taken to Nick's 9, 12. But I'm just saying, like, I don't think the wood port doesn't have that much value here. I think I'd rather get on the 9, 10. I think.
No, this was a bot placement, so it's they do what they do.
Yeah. Interesting board though. It's very clustered, and when you get these clustered boards, it's tougher to process through, and your game is deficient in certain areas where other players are going to have a significant surplus in certain areas and certain resources.
Yeah,
how
exactly.
Are you going to trade? What trading relationships can you find?
There's going to be a couple of players with crazy sheep on this board, so you can expect most likely 6, 9, 5, 8, 5, 10, and 6, 9, 4 could potentially all be taken by the first 3, and then it creates a situation where 4, 8, 3, 4, 8, 3 may actually be the optimal choice for 4th, which is really interesting. And then what is, if 6, 9, 4 was 3rd, what does 6, 9, 4 take here? Maybe they have to go something like 10 through 11. Do they take the 8, 5, 10 straight up?
I'd be okay 10. I'd be okay 5, 10 straight. Or maybe I go 10, 5, 2. Maybe I guess 10, 9, 2. I don't know. Maybe you go 10, 9, 2 to get the
8, 5, 10 is really interesting because you start with the 3 sheep. You can actually expect to get some 4 1s, and black is very black. Your 9s. I mean,
you've just got strong numbers, right? You cover 4 to 10. 4 to 10. Like that's awesome. I mean, like, if you can get on the 6, 3, like you can port the wood's very portable in this situation when it's eventually city. Like, I think it's sort of dev material, I would say. Like, I think later game, like, I think you can. I like that setup a fair bit. If I can get to the 6, 3 with 9, 4, 6, 8, 5, 10, I take it every day.
Huge production.
Probably every day. I think it's just the production's so good. You can 3-1. You can 4-1.
And honestly, nice tradability. The 8 and the 10 and the 4 are all rolls that create sheep and wheat on the board.
And you're trading well with 6, 5, 9 because
and 8, 5, 10.
The 9.
Your sheep for wheat, your wood for brick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I guess I see the 9. The 9 rolls. You got wood. They got brick. It's beneficial.
Right, so 6, 9, 4 probably gets with the 8, 5, 10. Then the 8, 5, 10 on the right player may end up with 6, 3, 11 with the ore port, wheat port, which is very interesting. And potentially 6, 9, 5 then has an interesting decision here. They might have to go potentially 10, 9, 11, 10, 9, 2, 10, 3, 11 are all options here.
Yeah, they all are. It's
6, 3 probably not
worth
board.
It. It's very when it's very clustered, it creates you can. I think you maybe want to try and emphasize trading relationships and what rules will be benefit. What because you're likely not gonna have, like, your opponents likely aren't gonna have all 5 resources in these
Right.
clustered boards. So there's gonna be a deficiency somewhere, and it's identifying how you can compensate with that. What rules can be, what rules that are generated can provide
Right.
great trade opportunities.
Sure. So this is an interesting board. Always fun to kind of think about what you want to prioritize and how your trading should look during the game. A second board that we have here. This is quite an interesting one. I thought this was slightly less obvious. How it develops out for second, third, and fourth.
It's a lot. It's not clustered, so there's a lot of free roads. Let's say. So I see when it gets to your second placement, there's potential for roads, potential for having a road, and it can make certain plays to certain ports more appealing. Let's say. What would you do first?
Right, so it's really interesting here. 5, 8, 10 is a very cool spot.
I think that's I like 5, 8, 10. I think that's the first pick because you're on these second desert ring boards or second ring desert boards. I mean, 8, 5, 10 will almost always get either 8, 4 or 8, 10 on the left. I think.
Yeah, exactly. This is
workable both ways.
Very dangerous.
It's strong ore, so you don't need ore at first.
Yeah.
And you get the other stuff out of the way. And if you get 8, 10, you got, like, I don't love the
even 6, 2 at the top on a high brick board is really interesting. I mean, 8, 10, 8, 4, all of these ore spots are at least playable.
You could play that if you had to. I think there's going to be probably better space on the board, and I think you'll be able to trade for ore okay because it's strong and the wheat's not that strong. So if you can get a couple shares of wheat, I think you can trade. You can facilitate trades to get ore.
And a very interesting board in that it has extremely low wood and quite low wheat as well. So a lot of the production is actually lying in the brick and the ore.
The brick and the ore,
and
a
little bit of sheep.
Fewer,
the 9 in the corner.
There's only 3 brick hexes, 3 ore hexes versus 4 for the other 3 resources. So no, it's a really interesting board in that sense.
And the sheep is basically only produced on the 8 and the 5 here. So
I don't think anyone takes. Like, I'm trying to think if anyone takes the 9, 10. Probably not. It'd be a future expansion. It could be like 6, 11, 3 or something that they would maybe expand to 9, 10 later in the game. But 8, 5, 10 that's probably the port they prioritize.
5, 8, 10 seems good, and then a second, I'd be considering 6, 4, 3 potentially to the brick port, just either to the brick port or to the 3-1. You could expect to secure the 3-1 port here, so both are interesting options on such a high brick board.
Yeah, because I mean the brick is good. I don't love because I feel you're gonna end up with like maybe a 6, 11, 3 or 9, 3, 11 with that 6, 4, 3. I don't love that as much, but it's just one of those things. So I don't know, not sure.
Yeah.
But you want to prioritize there.
It's awkward. I mean, 5, 9, 10 also a good utility spot with lots of decent outs. I mean, starting wheat on the way back is really nice. And as mentioned, it's basically the only sheep on the board that isn't the 8. The 9 is really inaccessible here. So 5, 9, 10, again, has some interesting outs where actually, something like the 9, 4, 11, 6, 3, 11, 6, 4, 11 probably less likely. But you can make some interesting plays here. Yeah. It's slightly more flexible, but you're not getting those cities up. So I think the 6-4-3 is a must-have. If not for second, then certainly for third.
Yeah, because I think you get the rare stuff, the wheat, the wheat and the wood out of the way.
The wood will do its job as well. The 3 between the 3 and the 10, you're going to expect probably both of them at some point. It's not crazy wood production anyway.
No.
And then beyond that, you got 5, 8, 10. You got 6-4-3 down. Probably something like 5, 8, 10 or 6, 4, 11 coming through here. And then just the rest of the stuff gets cleaned up, whatever makes sense. The 8, maybe 6, 4, 11 takes something like I don't know what 6, 4, 11 takes actually. Maybe so the 5, 9, 10 maybe ends up with something like the 8, 3, 4 potentially, or the 9, 4, 11 if they want it.
Yeah, maybe
6, 4, 11 actually has some pretty awkward outs here.
Yeah, it's and I don't know. It's just an interesting board. Just interesting on a few fronts, and I think the strong brick, the strong ore, creates a lot of interesting situations.
For sure.
I feel your game is kind of if you're trying to play road, you need the 10 or the 3 to kind of unlock it early on, and if you don't get those rolls, like I think someone can put up cities kind of quick with certain rolls, and so I think just with a strong ore, and
Sure.
if you settle on double wheat early with a 8 or if you've got double like the 9-4-11, if you get a couple with an 8 or 6, a couple favorable rolls, you can get the early city. I don't know. I think I'm just trying to think
something with the wheat board.
What's this? How's this going to scale up?
Right.
Yeah, it's
So even 10-9 is potentially a consideration, but very low production. It is.
It is. It's not pretty.
No.
There's like the potential expansion around it isn't great. Like it's just.
But taking away from that potentially very dominant 5-8-10 spot, not allowing them to get a 3-1 could be maybe your advantage here.
Like you're kind of taking one for the team almost.
It's a little bit defensive, and it's not the worst pick for you now in a position where you are basically going to end up sheepless. You get some of the good wheat, you get the flexibility, you get the 9-12 out, and you can kind of connect. Maybe you get a little road connection going even.
Yeah, like if you've got
it's awkward.
I think it's a little awkward.
It is very awkward.
It just seems to be like it just seems to be like an or wheat sheep game that I don't know. I don't love or wheat sheep games where you don't have
right.
You've got. Let's say, I mean, you don't have even like 5. I guess you might have 5 numbers, but it's just not that strong. If you have to do a coastal placement or wheat sheep,
but then leaving 6-4-11 for the 6-4-3 player with Brickport and Wheatport is pretty catastrophic. I think. There are some really nice combinations with them.
There's super power there. I mean, the 6
dangerous.
The
rolls.
6 and the 4 rolls are dangerous. Yeah. You get that if they get on that Brickport 6-4-11 cityed. I mean, the 4 is coordinated. That could be a city towards the end of the game.
You get on the wheat port. You're probably going to get on that 3-1 if you want it. 5-2 could be open behind that, which is also a great expansion. Certainly interesting. All right.
Interesting indeed.
There's definitely some. I think we could probably take more time for this. Unfortunately, time is not on our side here. They are starting any minute. All right. Okay.
I mean,
I'll give some context.
It's always fun to talk boards and always fun to do this, and that's what
for sure.
What would you do? How do you learn? How do you grow? And as a player, that's what.
So this is a really cool position where I played this yesterday. I had coordinated 5s for road. I was in quite a strong position, having got this early plow on green, and now I'm in a position where I can either quadruple dev, I can double city. I can city and buy 2 devs. I have many options here, and taking a look at the board, I'd be curious what you'd lean towards. I can reveal what I did afterwards, but what's your thought process here?
Knowing that you have a city in your pocket, I'd probably dev and see what I get. And then I'm just trying to think like what devs are good. I'm just trying to think what devs are good, what devs aren't good. I think any devs is probably fine.
Yeah.
I'd probably, and then where do I city? So, because you could city pop twice, and that's probably what I would do. I'd probably buy the second dev. I think I'd probably just clear my hand, get 2 devs in city. So you've got coordinated 5, so one of those. If you city one of those spots, you're going to be a little imbalanced. It's okay.
Right.
Are you concerned about Brown taking the 3-1 there?
Oh no, we knew in the position that actually Brown doesn't produce wood and is just 7 down the turn before.
I just wonder if they ever facilitate a trade. But the wood's not that strong, I guess is what I'm
This is the reason behind 5-8-10 was it's such a low wood board. You don't really get challenged for the expansions that much, and it definitely worked that way.
Yeah.
Even though 5s rolled, they barely rolled that game.
Yeah.
I did end up
I'm trying to think I think you city 8-5-10 here because I think that you can trade the wood a little better. And
I did actually city 11-5-4. Interestingly,
I think about that. I mean,
the triple shared spot there on the brick.
There are pros and cons of that. Yeah. I think the 11-5-4 is fine for sure, and I think it prompts you to get the second city up quicker. But if you dev twice, I guess it depends on the devs, and I think. Because if you city 11-5-4, then you get to settle on 8, and 11 and 8 is another city.
Yeah,
so I think it depends on those devs. Like the 8-5-10 gives you a lot of wheat, and 8's going to be a block. Probably it's going to be blocked the whole game. I think because the 8's coordinated for Brown. Like I think when you're blocking, you're going to be blocking the other 8, and I think the opponents are probably going to be blocking the wheat 8, 8 wheat.
Yeah, so and we did actually end up. There was the call in chat. Oh, double city is so fun, and it is fun. but in a position where I already have fantastic production.
Yeah, I just don't love the double city. I don't love spending 4. I think you get more
and
utility
looking
out
at the
of 2
dev
development cards
situation,
versus a city.
the
After you get
army's
city
not
up.
super contested here. So it was, green is in a pretty awkward spot to contest.
I mean, road isn't really either, and you get it on like a couple
exactly.
5s. I think this is a game where you very likely can get double win conditions.
And we did. In fact, it was very dominant. Taking the devs here definitely worked to the advantage. We'll show the last one.
Yep.
So, and we can post these out for anyone to discuss otherwise. But in this position, we were in the end game. This was also yesterday. Gray is at 8. They've taken Road and Army. They have a settle potentially to win, and it feels like a bit of a lost cause from my situation. I have the opportunity to dev or city, and we know that green has non-knights. So in this situation, I decided not to city. In fact, in chat, you can see people saying, always, you need that production, go for the city. I decided that if green is not able to contest Army and Gray has pulled a non-knight, then I'm able to apply pressure. If
you can
Gray
maybe get Army.
Exactly. And if Gray, we also know that there's at least 2 VPs and there are both monos out there. So there's definitely some money in the deck. I do dev here. That the decision was met to dev, and in the position, actually Gray had a yop. They citied, went to 9, and then I was able to actually continue putting pressure on, take Army, later connected for Road for 9 points and city to win.
Like I think if you city, you don't win this game.
Right,
like, I
exactly.
think you need. I really don't like playing games or playing situations out of 5 settlements and buying development cards. But I think in this case, the game is imminently close where you've got Gray who is that doesn't have much pressure on Army at the current. If you don't buy a dev, it gives them another orbit where they can win the game.
Exactly, and no pressure on Army either.
You don't know they have a yop at the time. Like I think they've got I mean, if they can settle the win, that's game over. So you gotta hope they don't have a victory point.
And then they actually were even though they were potentially incentivized to keep pulling devs to defend, they chose not to. And in that situation,
that was a mistake.
Right.
If they don't dev, if you buy a knight on your turn, they don't buy a knight. You take the knight, you take the robber off, you hit them.
They went for the closer win condition and managed to lose both win conditions.
Exactly, because they're too frail. I mean, they got to pick one and pick a lane and stay in it.
Right.
In this case, they didn't. And, I think the dev is the right play there because I just don't. You give too much time to Gray to win this game if you don't buy the dev.
They flew a little bit too close to the sun, and I think putting pressure on Army is the way to capitalize on that. Good. Okay, so. So in this situation, anyway, I did win that game. It was quite satisfying because I was so behind. But I think that is all from us Catan Weekly today. There is one of these big KLC games to get to. But
it's a big one. You got Kwijibo, you got ABH. I mean, Kwijibo was a great guy, very easy to talk to, trade with, and ABH is he's a good guy too, but his table talk's a bit more cutthroat, let's say, and he can definitely get salty. I think it'd be an interesting dynamic
for sure. Should be a very interesting game. I'm looking forward to it. Perfect.